Oh, here we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Tzadi Hey, Masechah Shabbos. We left off at the bottom of Tzadi Dalet Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. We had a Mishnah, which machlokes several cases, whether it's a deraisa, a derabanan. Rabbi Eliezer is a deraisa, of which some of them were biting fingernails or pulling one off with one's other fingernails, or his hair from his beard or his mustache. And then the last 3 cases was basically braiding one's hair, or a woman braid her hair, or put on some sort of makeup, and also like to comb the hair to untangle the hair. So the Gemara asks in the bottom, "Godelas kocheles v'pokesas mishumai." So what is that which? What are the malachas? Right, according to Rabbi Eliezer, what are the malachas of godelas kocheles and pokeses? Right, of braiding, of putting on makeup or coloring, and untangling. So mishumai mechayv. Some Rabbi Yavin, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Chanina, godelas mishumai regas. Right, making braids is like weaving. Kocheles mishum koseves, and painting the face. Right, is like writing. But pokeses, and to untangle hair, mishum tvia, is like spinning. Some Rabbanan kamei Rabbi Yavo, v'chiderech hariga b'kach, v'chiderech kasiva b'kach, v'chiderech tvia b'kach. What is this? The normal way of doing weaving? Is it normal way of doing writing? Is it the normal way of spinning? It's not. And we know that if you do a malacha kaliyachar yad, if you do something in an abnormal manner, that you're putter. So obviously these are not the normal manner, so you can't be chai for that. So Ella, bottom line, Amar Ravel, Didi Mefarish Limi Neder Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina actually was explaining to me that which Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina said. Kocheles mishum tzavas, right? To put on the makeup is because of dyeing, and godelos b'kas is mishum baina, and to make the braids and to uncomb the hair, right? To fix the hair, that is because the malacha of baina, of constructing a building. So Gemara asks, "I v'chi derech binyan b'kach." Is this a way of binyan? So Gemara answers, yes, yes. Kedidarash Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, as Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh darshan, vayiven Hashem es atzela. So it said when Hakadosh Baruch Hu by Chava. So he says vayiven when he built from her, right from his side. So and then he used some melamed. It says Shekila Hakadosh Baruch Hu lechava v'havia eitz adam. Right, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. He says vayikala Shekila Hakadosh Baruch Hu, right, that he braided her hair, Chava, and he brought her to Adam. Because in Karchei Yam overseas, right, they call braiding benisa, right? Benisa is another word. So vayiven from benisa is like braiding. Hakadosh Baruch Hu braided the hair. So Tanya, we're learning Brayso of Shimon Elazar Oimer goideles kocheles v'kases le'atzma ptura. If she does it to herself, then she's ptura. Why is that? Because it's not the normal manner to do that. Why? Because one cannot do such a good job if you go ahead and you braid your own hair, right? If you can't really see yourself with putting on the makeup and also fixing it. However, lechaverta, but to one's friend, chayevet. So such a case is one would be to her friend would be chayev, because that's the normal way of doing it. V'chein hayir Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar oimer mishum Rabbi Eliezer isha lo'isavira strak al panam mipnei shetzavas. A woman should not go ahead and put rogue on her face because she is tzavas, she is dying. And Tanu Rabbanan hachaylev v'hamachavetz v'hamagavein kigrogros. One who goes ahead and is chaylev, he milks, or machavetz, or one who goes ahead and he prepares the milk, right? I guess he separates, right, the pieces out from the milk, the hamagavein. And one who goes ahead and makes cheese. All these, how much does one have to do to be chayiv? So that also the minimum size, the kegrogros, is the size of a dried fig. Hamachavet, one to sweep. Maravetz is basically they used to go ahead on their dust floors and sprinkle water on it so it doesn't come up. Vahareide cholos dvash, and one who goes ahead and removes what's called the honey cakes, or from the honey loaves from a beehive. Shogeg b'Shabbos, one is a chayiv chadas. He does b'shogeg and Shabbos chayiv chadas, and hazy b'yontif, and he does it mezid and yontif. Then loik arabayim, then he gets malchus divi Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer. In other words, this is a deoraisa. Is actually machlokes actually what echad zeh is. Whether it's all 6 cases we had before, including the milking, or is it just including the last 3 cases? But according to the Chamim, Rashi says Zev is referring to both Shabbos and Yantif, Eino ela mishum shivus, right? The last cases are a shivus, in other words, sweeping, sprinkling water on one's floor, and removing the beehives, the loaves, is all a shivus. Rav Nachum bar Guria equal Nahardia. So one time he's in Nahardia, chole mishumai. What's alacha mishum chaylev? Right, for milking, well, he milks an animal. What was he chayiv for? Mishumai mechayiv. So Amarlu mishum chaylev. He said for milking. So mechavetz mishumai. What about mechavet? What about the one who goes ahead and strains the milk? Mishumai. Some mechayiv. Amarlu mishum mechavetz because of straining. And megabe mishumai. What about making cheese? Chayiv. Amarlu mishum megabe. Right, for making cheese. So Amarle Rabchas, he said to them, "Your Rebbe, katil kind of agmahavi." Right, it feels like he's been cutting reeds in the marsh. In other words, he does not seem to be learning. He didn't give you answers, right? He told you you're chai for milking because of milking. You're chai for making cheese because of making cheese. However, as the Shayu by Midrash, he asked the base madrash Amarle. They said to him, "Chaylev chai mishum mefarik." That one is chai because of mefarik. Right, which is a talada of dash, and I was extracting. Right, one extracts the milk, and therefore he's chayiv from dash for basically extracting and taking out the smaller parts. The chavetz, and the one who goes ahead and basically strains the milk. The chayiv mishum boirer, he's chayiv because of boirer of selecting, and megave, and one who makes cheese is chayiv mishum baina, is chayiv for building. And hamachavid mamavis varoide cholus dvashagig b'Shabbos chayv chadas. And according to and hazy biyantav loikar by Rabbi Eliezer. So now that was the quote from the brisa we had before: one who sweeps, one who sprinkles water on the floor, one who goes ahead and removes the beehive, the loaves from the honey loaves on Shabbos is chayv a chadas, right? So Amar Rabbi Elazar, my time to Rabbi Eliezer. What's the reason for Rabbi Eliezer? The pasuk says, "Vayitvo osa b'yaras hadvash," and says, and they dipped in the yaras hadvash. Right? The pasuk says, right? What does it mean? The yaras hadvash. V'chima inyan yar etzo dvash. What does honey have to do with a forest, with a yar? So Ella loy marlecha ma yar hatoyishim min b'Shabbos chayv chatas. Just like when it goes ahead and plucks and pulls out from a forest on Shabbos, is chayv chatas. So too, one who goes ahead and removes the honey cakes, right, from a beehive is also chayv from it because of he's chayv chatas. And a meimar, another case, shara zilcha b'mechuza. He allowed him to go ahead and do zilcha, to go ahead and basically sprinkle water on the floor in mechuza. So Amar Taimim, Amar Rabbanan, what's the reason why Rabbanan forbid going ahead and sprinkling water on the floors in the dust house on Shabbos? Right? Dilma asila shmei gumos. Perhaps a person might come and smooth out holes in the floor on Shabbos, which would be a problem. However, hachalaka gumos. But over here, because it was all built on stone, it was not built on dirt floors. Therefore, there is no holes. Therefore, there is no concern for sprinkling water on the floor. Therefore, it be permitted. And Rava Tusbai Ashkel Ravina. So one time Rava Tusbai, he found Ravina, the Kametzar Mehevel, right? He was having difficulty from the Hevel, right? There's a lot of dust, right, in the house. I don't know if it was allergies or something, a lot of dust, and it was very troublesome for him on Shabbos. And some say Mar Kashisha Berei de Rava Ashkel Ravashi. And some say it was Mar Kashisha Berei de Rava, they found the Ravashi to Kametzar Mehevel. He was being bothered by the Hevel. So I'm like, Lo Yisrael Mar Laha. Why don't you don't hold of that which it says in the Brisa? The Tanya, we learn in the Brisa, how right to the Rabbi says base so Shabbos. One who goes ahead, we said you're not allowed to go ahead and sprinkle water on the dust in your floor on Shabbos, but if one who wants to go ahead and achieve this, what should he do? Maybe Ariva Malaya Mayim, go ahead and bring a bucket of water. Go ahead and wash your face in this corner, and Yada v'zavidzu, and your hands in that corner, Raglav v'zavidzu, and your legs in that corner. In other words, basically use the water where it's going to splash and end up on the floor. Just do it in different places in the house, and in Mela, there will be water upon the dust on the floor, and therefore it will basically stop the dust. It turns out the house is basically had been sprinkled all on its own. So I'm lavadaiti, right? I did not think of that. Yeah, but you're right. It's a good idea. And Tana, similarly, we learn Isha Chachma, a wise woman, Revetzes Beisa, she can go ahead and basically sprinkle water on her first B'Shabbos, because she can go ahead and basically wash dishes in different corners. And Vayina, now the Svilon Rabbi Shimon, and now that we hold like Rabbi Shimon, who holds that a davar Hashem is kavin is mutter. Shari afilu chachila. One can even go be lechachila, can go ahead and because one is not making holes, one has no intentions or to fill the holes, one has no intention. So therefore, you can go ahead and sprinkle it on Shabbos and will not be a problem. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says, see, Meir's trying to get it out. All right. The Mishnah says, Hatoleish me'otzitz nakuv.
And I missed that.
There you go. Thank you. So Hatoleish me'otzitz nakuv chayv. Now, one who goes ahead and let's say he has a
very disappointed, Mayor. Way too late.
What is it?
It's very disappointing. It was way too late. Gotta say it right away.
So now the Mishnah discusses now a plant in a flower pot. Now, many flower pots have holes in the bottom. So even though the fact that it's growing in the plant, when it's in the ground, right, or now when it's sitting on the ground, right, there is that it is benefiting from the ground. There's different nutrients and stuff that come from the ovir, even though there's, it's directly on top of it, but that the nutrients that comes up from the ground directly into the flower pot. So there's going to be a shaila as to whether this is considered to be attached to the ground or is it detached, right? Everybody holds if there's no hole in it, if there's no hole in the flower pot, then it's just like in a kli, which is not connected. The shaila is if there's a hole in the bottom. So let's see. Hatolesh me'otzis nakuv. One who goes ahead and he pulls out a plant that is in a pot with a hole, right? Chayiv, he is chayiv, right? And Rashi says is chayiv, right? Because that's considered to be mechuber. It's considered to be attached to the ground, and one is not allowed to go ahead and pull out something which is attached to the ground, right? He's pulling it out, right? And therefore, so we would say is mechuber l'karka. So chayiv v'shein nakuv. But if there is no hole in the pot, then he is completely putter. Then it's considered to be putter, and it's not attached because it's like pulling out something that's not attached to the ground. Which one is putter is not chayiv a chatas for. Rabbi Shimon paiter zebzeh. Rabbi Shimon says lamaisa, the roots are not growing in the ground. It's only just sitting upon the ground. Therefore, if you pull it out, it's not considered to be pulling from the ground. And certainly, if there is no hole in the pot, you're not pulling something from the ground. You're pulling something from a kli, and therefore you are a putter. So that was the Mishnah. So let's see the Gemara. So Rabbi Lov Abayi l'Rava. So first, Abayi is a kasha to Rava. It seems to be a contradiction. Rabbi and some say Rabbi Chia bar Rav l'Rav. So Tanan, it says in our Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon paiter zebzeh. Rabbi Shimon says all cases is pater. Alma, what do you see from here? Rabbi Shimon's shita is nakuv. Rabbi Shimon shein nakuv mashvilei. Right? Something that is a hole is just like it has no hole. In other words, just like something that has no hole is not attached to the ground, so too something with a hole, even though the roots are not growing through, even if it's just a hole where it can basically absorb the nutrients from the ground, nevertheless, it's considered to be detached, and there's no connection. So that's what you see from our Mishnah according to Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says, "Ein bein nakuv l'shein nakuv, ella lahachshir zerayim bilvat." There's no difference between whether there's a hold or no hold, but lahachshir zerayim bilvat to matter zerayim. Now we know that when it comes to seeds, right? In order for something to be hechsher letuma, right? That it has to be, I guess, something that is considered to be right detached to the ground and had different, what's it called? It has to be detached from the ground. It has to be, whatever, watered, whatever it is. It has to be one of the different moistened, right, from one of the waters. But it has to be detached from the ground. If something's attached to the ground, then it's tahor. Okay, it can't become tummy, right? A plant that's growing in the ground is tahor. It can't be tummy. Only something growing in a pot or something that's detached can become tummy. So it says over here, Rabbi Shimon, that if something is in a plant or in a flower pot, which is perforated, it has a hole in the bottom, that is considered to be attached to the ground. It's tahor. So what do you mean? I thought according to Rabbi Shimon, right, it's always considered to be detached from the ground, and therefore it should become tamei. So why does he say to be that over here it's tahor? Samarlei. So he says no. L'chol mila Rabbi Shimon katalish mashvilei. All cases, you're right. Rabbi Shimon considers it detached, and therefore just because it's perforated, nevertheless, it's still considered to be not attached to the ground. However, v'shani li'en tuma. But however, by case of tuma, right, to say that this is attached to the ground and therefore it'll be tahor. That Torah rivsa tahara eitz azraim, because the Torah uses extra lashon of tahara when it comes to the seeds. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, al kol zera zarua asher yizra, right? All the extra lashonis of al kol zera zarua asher yizra, since the extra lashon tells us by the tahara of the seeds. Therefore, even seeds that are growing in a pot which is perforated, but if it's on the ground, then it's considered to be attached to the ground, and therefore it'll be tahor and not tameh. So boimineo usabim rebezera shayresh keneged nekev mali. What's the halacha? Okay, I understand. Rabbi Shimon, you hold that even though despite the fact it's perforated, there's a hole in it, it's considered to be detached and it's not considered to be connected to the ground. Let's say the roots are growing right by the hole. The roots are near the hole, and the hole is, sitting on the ground. Can we say in that case that maybe it's attached in such a case? So Amar Rabbi Shimon, Ishtik, he was quiet. He didn't give it teretz, even though logically you'd say, okay, obviously the roots are right by the hole, and the hole is touching the ground. So, maybe we can say it's attached. But he didn't answer. Ishtik, he didn't answer anything. However, Zim Chadash, one time he found the Yosef Kalmar, he was sitting in Rabbi Zer and he darshaned, and he said, so he said over there that, however, he would be, right, that if the hole, right, in the case where the hole was enough to be metahiret, right? In other words, the hole's enough to be metahiret, meaning it's enough to say it's tahor, it's enough to say it's attached to the ground. So you see over here, right, and that if there was a hole in the pot, it's metahiret, it's considered to be attached to the ground. So he said to him, Amarle, hashta shosh keneged negev b'minach v'lo marti li lamidi. 1 second, I asked you if the hole was right next to the roots, right? And you said you didn't know the answer, whether it's considered to be connected to the ground. However, nikev v'chdei tarasa miboy. So, but in a case of where there's just a hole, right? The hole is big enough to be metahiret. You're saying it's considered to be attached to the ground. Opposite, right? You should say that if the roots are right next to the hole, it should be attached. Certainly in this case. So how come you didn't answer my other question before? So says Abaye, no, really, it's something else. Right? He wasn't saying that, Rabbi Zer. He actually said something else. If you want to say that, which Rabbi Zer said when he said b'shem Rabbi Shimon, it was hachi tamar. Umayde Rabbi Shimon shim nekev lamata miravis, only if the hole if is below a revis. In other words, that if the hole was situated somewhere, right, certainly on the bottom, all right, then it's considered attached to the ground. But even if it was on the side, as long as if the hole was high enough over here that you could have a revis of liquid underneath it, then it's not considered to be attached to the ground. Then the hole is considered to be higher up on the side or somewhere else, and therefore it's not connected. But if the hole is somewhere lower down, where if you pour a revis of water in there, it cannot hold it, the water would come out. So then that is not considered to be a kli. Amar Rava, new case, says Rava, Amar Rava, chamesh midos bekli cheres. We're going to give 5 standards when it comes to an earthenware vessel in terms of size of the holes and different levels of tuma and tahara. All right, it's not so bad here. Right, it looks complicated. It sounds bad, but it's not so bad. Let's see. Nikev kamaitzi mashka. If there's a hole, all right, and I wouldn't even call this one a hole. I will call this one a crack, where water can seep out. So the liquid inside the kli is enough to seep out. Tahor milatame gistra. It's no longer. Now we have a concept that even a shard of earthenware can be considered a kli if it's usable for something. But this shard cannot have any type of crack or hole in it. If there is any type of hole, it's no longer considered to be a useful shard, and therefore it's no longer considered to be tameh, it would be tahor, right? It's useless, it's not a kli. So a shard that has a small crack that water can seep out, that loses its status of gistra, which is a usable shard of earthenware, and it becomes tahor. However, if such a crack where water can seep out is in a kli, is an actual vessel, it's in a kli, right? Like this, there's a small crack that you can seep out. This kli is tahor even to the point that I can go ahead and use it for the para aduma ceremony, or whatever the process of doing it is. Obviously, you have to go ahead and take. Obviously, you take spring water and you mix it with hyssop, and that you combine it with the ashes. So you have to put in a kli. That kli, even if it has a small crack where water can seep out, it's still considered a usable kli for that purpose. Now, however, let's say the hole gets, that was stage 1, right? The smallest one. Stage 2, the hole gets a little bigger. The hole is big enough, where water can enter and go out. So not only seep out, but if you pour water on the outside, it can also get into it. So such a hole is tor melekadosh b'mechatas. Now this kli, right? If the water can get in both ways, whether on the inside it will seep out, or if it's on the outside and I pour it on the outside, it will get in the inside. It is no longer usable for the paraduma. It's not a kli for that anymore. It's no longer used for paraduma, and it's tor in terms of that. However, but it's still considered to be right kosher when it comes to zraim, right? When it comes to seeds, or in other words, if you had something was planted in there, something was planted in this kli that had a hole that water can get in or out of, but it was only that small that only water can get in or liquids can get in and out. It's still considered to be detached. If it is sitting on the ground, it's not considered attached because the hole is not big enough. However, nikep k'shorish katan. However, if there's a hole, now that was stage 2. Now it comes stage 3. The hole is nikep k'shorish katan. If the hole is large enough for the size of a root, tar melachsher b'izraim. Now all of a sudden it's big enough for a root. Therefore, it's considered to be attached to the ground because the roots can go ahead and absorb the nutrients from the ground. And now it is no longer considered to be a kli in terms of a pot sitting on the ground. It's actually considered to be attached to the ground when it comes to the seeds planting inside. However, but if you want to go ahead and use this item, which has a small enough for, I guess, the roots to go through, but you want to go ahead and use it for a bowl to hold olives, right? That is still considered to be tummy in such a manner. However, if it's now comes stage 4, if it's considered something that is a hole that can go ahead and olives can fall through, then tar mekabel zaysim, then it's no longer, if it was set to use as a kli to hold olives, it is no longer considered to be a vessel for that purpose, because it can no longer serve its purpose of holding olives, because olives would go ahead and fall out. However, but it will be able to hold a pomegranates because those are larger. And however, if the hole in such an earthenware vessel is so large that even pomegranates can come out, tahar mikulam, then it is considered to be a tar completely. It's not considered to be a kli at all. It's not a useful kli. However, and if something was inside it and there was a hole large enough as a pomegranate, but let's say it was in a house. Now it was in a house, and a house or in a room with a mace, with a dead body. Now anything inside that kli is considered to be tameh. However, if v'im hukaf tzmit psil ad shicha rubo, but if it was considered to be sealed, as the Torah says, if the earthenware kli is sealed, then the contents are not considered to be tameh from tumas ohel. So even though you have a kli which has on the side of it or on the bottom of it has a hole larger than a pomegranate, if it is sealed on top, then the contents of the kli would not become tameh from tumas ohel inside a house. And Amar Ravasi, says Ravasi, Shamati kli cheres shira kamaitze rimon. I heard, right, that a klicheres, that shear is the amount to take out a pomegranate. So over there in such a case, so you see that this would be different. We said before it had to do with a zayis, right? In other words, and maybe over here he heard that something loses its status even with a pomegranate and not with a regular kazayis. So he said, that halacha we said by a pomegranate as a pomegranate, maybe is by as long as the hole is not even if it's larger than a pomegranate, as long as it's sealed and covered, therefore it would go ahead and protect from tumas oil inside a house. So I then Rava say it's not the size of a pomegranate, rather the hole can be even a majority of it. So the answer is loikash. It's not a contradiction. In a case of a very large one, right? In a case of a very large kli, then it has to be a majority of it. Since it's large enough, so therefore the whole, even if it's a whole size of pomegranate, it's still sufficient. It has to be a majority of it is broken for that not to be a kli. But in a smaller kli, then we say the amount that that has to be broken off is the size of a pomegranate, and therefore, in the case if it's the size of a pomegranate, that if it's sealed, therefore it would protect. If it's not sealed, it will not protect it, and we will stop over here at top line. Shkoyach, everybody. Don't forget to sign up minyanim. Oh, and for those who weren't here, so on Sundays, the minyan is at 8:30, right? The shul minyanim are starting to be 8:30, which is the shtabach. So we're basically going to have Sunday morning minyanim, Sunday morning learning at 7 a.m. And then we'll start, we'll stop probably around, 8:05, 8:10, to give people time to get the shul for 8:30 minyan, and I guess so.